So after 6 years, the next entry into the Dresden Files has finally been released. At the time of this video, I think it's been out now in bookstores for a week or two. And I was super excited to read this book and super excited to review it for you guys. And this is going to be a non-spoiler review if you haven't read it yet, or if you're waiting for Battlegrounds to come out in September, which might be a good idea. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. So Peace Talks, I'll compare it in size to these other previous 3 books. You have Changes, Cold Days, and Skin Game. So Peace Talks is about 340 pages, I think, or 336 or something like that. The other books have the past 3 have been about 400 to 500. But that kind of makes sense when you consider that Peace Talks is just one half of the story, right? Jim Butcher kind of split the story into 2, fleshed out each portion. So it was a little disappointing that it was a little shorter, but the fact that there's a whole other book coming out in September, kind of alleviates that pain a little bit. When I first started reading this, Peace Talks, I was a little disappointed just because, it was good at like average Jim Butcher writing, but it didn't hit it out of the park like the last 3 books did. But as I, kept reading and got to the end of the book, that made more and more sense, especially when I considered that Peace Talks is a very different book than the previous 3, right? It's only one half of a story, and I think if we wait till September, wait to read Battlegrounds, that the combination of these two books is just going to knock it out of the park, just like the previous 3 have. But I feel a lot of people, when they read this, after reading everything that's happened in Changes and Cold Days and Skin Game, like, it was so momentous, it changed Harry Dresden and the whole Dresden verse so much, and it's been 6 years, that people are going to read it and be like, oh man, this wasn't kind of what I was hoping, like it wasn't what I was expecting. But I think all hope is not lost. I think, like I said, when September and when Battlegrounds comes out, that it's just going to wow people. So if you are waiting until September to read both of these, that may be a good idea, because, like I said, you may be a little disappointed if you just go in reading Peace Talks by itself. So this whole story revolves around some peace talks that are occurring between the signatories of the Unseelie Accords and the Fomor, right, who have been causing problems all around the world and kidnapping people. And then, so Dresden's involved both as his role as a warden and then as his role as the knight for Mab. And it also revolves around his brother and kind of some stuff Thomas does that, like, just puts a stick in the spokes of this whole thing going on. So causes a lot of issues, what he does. And then Peace Talks, mainly, it's a very different book from the previous 3. It's setting the stage for what's going to be happening in Battlegrounds. And so, Harry's interacting basically with the whole cast of characters that have been introduced throughout all the rest of the Dresden books, right? Molly's in it. Butters makes an appearance. And I think actually the scenes with Butters in them were my favorite after, what happened in the Skin Games. So you get more of him as a Knight of the Cross, and there are so many cool scenes between him and Harry. Butters has just changed so much over the course of the Dresden Files, and it was just a lot of fun to see him and to see that change that has occurred, see those changes that have occurred to make him what he is now in Peace Talks. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, like I said, Thomas is in it. Ebenezer, there's Ebenezer and Harry's relationship in this book changes a lot, and we kind of get a window into some of the events that have shaped Ebenezer into the wizard, into the person that he is today, and that affects his and Harry's relationship quite a bit. So that was interesting to see. We also get a resolution to the question of if Harry and Murphy are going to be in a relationship. That's been hinted at a lot in books throughout the Dresden Files, especially with some of the stuff that happened in Skin Game. So that was nicely done. It wasn't like super sappy, but there's just a good back and forth, and there's always has been between Murphy and Harry, so I really appreciated that. We also get kind of a hint into the role of Harry as the Warden of Demonreach, which was cool. It's been hinted at that, and we kind of know that this is a big responsibility, like there's some big bads that are in prison there, and there's kind of a window into the responsibility and the power and authority Harry has in that position, which was super cool, and I think is going to play a lot bigger role, or based on the hints, in Battlegrounds. So that was interesting to see. And this whole book, like I said, is just setting the stage for Battlegrounds. The whole book is basically a setup, and I think I tried to stay away from reviews before I do my own reviews. It was on the internet, and I looked on Amazon, and that's like everyone who reads that, I think, who has read Peace Talks has realized that. Like, I don't think it quite hits people's expectations, but because they know that next book is going to come out, they're just like, okay, everything's going to be okay. But it's just setting the stage, right? It's setting the scene and drawing all the characters that have been introduced throughout the Dresden Files that Harry's interacted with, and it's just getting them into place to deal with the consequences of the end of this book. Because this book is like a sleeper hit. I can't remember if I said this, but you're gonna read like 90% of it and just be like, okay, that's pretty good, right? Like, don't get me wrong, like average Jim Butcher writing is probably better than a lot of other authors' best writing, but you're gonna go through it and be like, okay, it's pretty good. Not what I was expecting, but I can see where it's going. And then you're gonna get to the last 10%, and it's gonna blow your mind. Like, you're gonna read it and be like, what just happened? Because there's, like I said, a lot of character moments, some cool battle scenes, which is pretty typical of Jim Butcher. And but you're still gonna go through and be like, okay, getting a good look at Butters, Murphy, and Dresden. Thomas, what are you doing, you dummy? And then that last 10% is going to come out of nowhere and knock your socks off. And it's going to make you so excited for Battlegrounds when it comes out in September. So look forward to that. And that's kind of why I think you want to wait until September maybe to read Peace Talks. No, you want to read it as a complete story. So, and I don't know who made that decision to split these into 2 books. I don't know what the length would have been if it was just one manuscript. But like Wheel of Time books are all like 1,000 pages, so, but I guess it didn't fit into, if you have these on a shelf, they're all 500-page long books, so there's that. There's only a couple criticisms I have of this book, and I think that is one of them. I think that may have been a publisher's decision to split these into 2, so that was kind of interesting. I know people are claiming it's a money grab, but Jim Butcher doesn't come across, I've seen him get interviewed, and he doesn't come across as that kind of person in his interviews, which maybe he's a really good actor, I don't know. But I think it's more of a publisher decision to split these into 2. And then there's a couple, just editing, I guess. Like, there's one part where they're in Chicago, and they start talking about the Gold Coast, right? I've never been to Chicago. I was there for 2 days, right? For when I was an auditor, so I was there on a job. But they started talking about the Gold Coast, and I was like, they never took the waves to Australia. Why are they talking about the Gold Coast? And I was like, but they're still in Chicago, and I flipped back pages, right? And I guess the Gold Coast is kind of a swanky area of Chicago, but I think that should have been caught, I think, by the editors. It's never been introduced before, and it may confuse me. There's another part where he like is not totally dressed, and he answers the door, and it talks about how he only opened a little bit because his pants were around his ankles. And then he just, as he talks, he just lets the people in and then goes and sit down. And I don't remember, maybe I should go back and reread this, but I don't remember there ever being a part, like if you're going to go to the trouble of mentioning that his pants were off or down around his ankles, and that he only opened the door a little bit, you should probably, also add in that he pulled his, got dressed before he went to sit down again and let the people in the house, and they didn't do that. So that was kind of interesting. And just like nitpicky editing things, right? I think those are my 2 biggest complaints. Well, 3 complaints, I guess. So, I think you're going to like these books. I think even if you don't wait for Battlegrounds, Peace Talks is a good book. Ends on a huge cliffhanger. So just beware, be prepared. And I think that's all I got for you. I don't think there's any super cool stuff. Just a dedication. Sometimes if there's maps and stuff, I'll show them in these videos. No, just normal stuff. So just got that, about the author on the last page on the flyleaf there. So that's all I got for you today. If you like science fiction fantasy, subscribe to the channel. We've got comics, omnibuses, some good stuff coming out. So see you next time.